Hey, Kowalski here and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video I really want to test out the Nepomniachtchi curse with cutting your hair, because we all know what happened after Nepo cut his hair, and Rapport kind of reassured us that it is true and that it actually exists, a curse around cutting your hair, especially if you have long hair, so that's why he doesn't cut his hair. And I cut my hair, but as you're gonna see in today's video, I actually won 4 games to go on a streak and win 50 rapid points against a pretty good opponent that had a bad day. So in the first game, I'm with the black pieces, and my opponent plays d4. And so now I go knight f6 and I invite my opponent to a Grunfeld. And my opponent doesn't really enter the Grunfeld, so just plays passively, and here I decide to transform the position. So this is a very standard position, basically in the balance 0-0s, and after the very tame move a3, this allows me to transform the position in such a way that my opponent is left with an isolated pawn, and as you can see I have a very small edge. And here I go for the bishop g4 line, forcing an f3. F3 wasn't forced, but it's kind of unpleasant to play d5. There are knight e5 possibilities, and the position is kind of shaky, so that's why my opponent played f3. I went back, and here, bishop g5, queen b6, and my opponent chooses an interesting approach with b4, now preparing knight a4. And here I basically went for the move rook d8 regardless, saying that knight a4 doesn't really affect me, and then I'm just gonna slide back. And here in fact the best move is rook c1, and it's the only move to keep the position in the balance, but here my opponent plays bishop f4, and now you can see the eval bar completely shifting. And why this move is so bad? Exactly, I played this move, look at the time, 10 minutes and 8 seconds, and I played this move in less than 20 seconds. So I was so sure that this move is winning, basically e5, and now you cannot take the pawn because you lose your queen, and you cannot take with the bishop because again you lose your bishop. You cannot take, you lose your queen. So anyways, now basically he plays back, and here I make a slight error in my calculations. I play knight takes d4, and here I play rook takes, which now completely blunders the game, because he can just go queen takes, and after I take and I attack his bishops, now he has this very crucial move, bishop e5. And after I take, he basically can just play like knight b2, and he's gonna win this pawn, and he's gonna win the game. But here my opponent, again, he makes a slight error. He takes here with check, and now it's back to a game, because now I trade the bishops, and I play this move, and now I got a passed pawn that's protected and 2 squares away from promotion, so rook c1, and I play h4 so that he doesn't play g4, and here he brings the other rook in the game, and then now I bring the king so that he cannot enter the 2nd rank or the 5th rank, the 7th or the 5th. And here after f4 I just play rook c4, forcing him to play g3, and now just c2, and as you can see it's 0-0-0s. And here's where the title comes into play. Is psychology really a thing in chess? Because here I basically, after I make this move and he goes here, you cannot take, obviously this is lost, and you've got to play rook e1. That's the only move. And now here I threaten a repetition of moves. So no, did I skip some moves? No. Here he went back king g1, and here bishop g4. So here he plays g4, and now bishop f3, and I would have been winning with bishop f3, but I was like, this is a draw. I mean, let's get a draw. If I can get a draw, it's good. So I played this move. This is back to 0-0s, and here's where the psychology part really starts to take place. Here I go rook d1, and here I check him again, and he's like, well, I'm not gonna repeat moves. I have an exchange up. He goes king f1. Massive mistake. Now I just play bishop f3, and here again I could have played bishop h3 check. This would have been much more forcing and much better, but I just didn't really believe in this position here. You know, actually bishop g2 is much better than rook g2. I didn't really believe in this position because I didn't see a way. I played bishop f3, which now is kind of -2. But this move here, now again, I threaten a repetition of moves. Like I'm winning, but I don't realize that. But he just doesn't want to draw, and that's why, you know, he plays a4. And here, you know, I said to myself, well, I'm winning now. Just bring in the king, and I'm winning. Rook a1, but now it doesn't make sense, and he simply doesn't have any defense anymore. I just went check, and I just won this very nice endgame here. I sacked my queen for the pawn, and here he resigned. So now this is gonna be the second game that I'm gonna show you. Now I'm playing with the white pieces, and keep in mind my opponent is a little bit tilted, you know, like after a loss obviously you're tilted. So now c4 and e5. This is a very nice system that I like to play. And here, by the way, there's this line that goes e4, knight h4, and very wild g5, knight g2, but white is completely fine, just rerouting the knight to e3 and then developing the bishop, just go d3, knight c2. It's a lot, but I know this line very well, so I decided to go for it. But my opponent doesn't play e4, so now e4 is no longer a problem. Now I just go knight h5 and I win the pawn. So bishop c5 is played instead, castles, and e3, d5, and now here I decide to go for a reversed knight or Sicilian kind of structure. You can see this resembles the E and C pawns in the Sicilian. So, more like the D and C pawns, but you know, it's kind of the structure. It's not the same structure. So now bishop g4, and you have to play this move either d3 or queen c2 or h3. I chose d3 as you know, again resembling the Sicilian setup, and like the dragon dwarf, so to say. And now knight f6, queen c2, bishop b6, b4. This is, again, I felt so good playing all of these moves. I knew they were like almost top engine lines, and after the move a6, just bishop b2, and this pawn is attacked, rook e8 is forced. Now simply knight d2, consolidating, and I have no problems in this position. And after this move, queen d7, just knight c4, and I was so proud of myself here. You have to play the move queen f5 if you want to keep your position together. But my opponent plays e4, which completely blunders the game. I just take the pawn. Here I thought for about a minute, and so because this was the first move that was kind of out of theory, because I knew it was a blunder. And after knight takes, just knight fe5, knight takes, simply the top engine line. But here, you know, my opponent kind of started to pose some problems. Here I make a mistake, going bishop f4. This basically gives the game back to equality. F3 was much better, because this was forcing the bishop to move right away. Bishop h3, and now I could have actually taken and went for this. And now I have no more problems. E4, just gonna bring in the rook, and I have the open file. But here I play bishop f4, and now after knight f3 check, king h1, g5, my opponent blunders back, but it's not so easy. You have to see a very complex. And just look at my time here. I spent a lot of time to make a wrong move. Here the position is very complex, and the best move is actually queen e4, but I didn't see that, because, you know, I was thinking like, okay, maybe rook e8 was possible, and here I just failed to see that just queen b7, and you know, if you play something like this, I just take the queen, and it's all over. My bishop actually doesn't need a getaway square. I can just take the knight. So rook ad1, this is a bad move because of the move queen e6, but he plays the move queen e7. Queen e6, you have to play queen e6, because you're gonna see in the game he played queen e7, and I was able to play h3. If you play queen e6, now you have to take this pawn, because there's no other way. And now it's kind of a draw, 2 pieces for rook, but in a very complicated position, because now I cannot play h3 anymore. Now this is completely losing. But you don't actually take the pawn here, you have to take the bishop. But now the thing is, the mate threats are too big. Oh no, just made right away. You don't have to take. I thought you have to take. No, this is just made right away. So rook ad1, but this just blunders the game. Now h3, and I'm back. I'm back at the wheel. Now I have to move my queen, and again I don't make the most accurate moves, but here it gets very interesting as I begin to get very low on time. This is 10 plus 5, so you're gonna see me gaining a little bit of time here. b5, and basically, you know, I said, okay, if we trade here, then I'm just gonna bring in the rook. I'm winning. So he doesn't trade, but here I say, well, I'm just gonna grab a pawn. And here I basically really wanted to get into an endgame because I knew I was winning. And here I just bring my queen back, attack the knight, and here he goes queen f6 defending. And here it's a very interesting position because the move queen a5, pawn a5, and the pawn just goes, and although he has all of his pieces attacking my king, he doesn't really have anything. That's the impossibility, so to say, of an attack. c5, just a6, and here I start to kind of shiver a little bit, like queen c4, and I wasn't so sure. Rook e6 I knew wasn't the best move, so I took the bishop, and after he takes, now I play a7. And here during the game I said, oh no, this is his chance. But later I realized that knight d2 doesn't actually work because I just take the knight. But if I'm not careful and I take the bishop, I mean, this is still because the position is so absurdly good for me, I can just sack my queen because I bring in a new one. I mean, it's crazy. So a7, rook e8, and rook c1. This brings the game back to equality if and only if the move queen d6 is played. He plays queen c7, but this doesn't work because now I just take the pawn and I go king g1. The move queen d6 was much better because now after I take the knight, and then he takes, and now I go here. Now he has the move queen h6, and he's able to harass me, and I have to be careful. I have to play a move like queen b5, and then I play a move like rook f8, and I definitely am still winning, but I gotta give up my most important asset so that I can play the move f3, so that I can defend against mate. This is still better for white, but it's not as winning as what was played in the game because now he cannot go to h6 anymore. And he takes the pawn, but I just take the pawn right back. He tries something here, but I just take the pawn with check. And the rest of the game is basically just converting, and I have to be careful not to get too low on time. Trying to trade the queens, here picking up a free pawn, and just keeping the pressure. And here after the rook trade, my opponent just resigned. So now we're 2-0. My opponent is very tilted, so we go straight back into the same variation just like in the first game. The exact position, a3, very tame, but I go for the exact, actually here he doesn't take with the pawn anymore, he takes with the knight, but it's the exact same structure, only now with a piece less, and I just play this move. And this move, I just find it very, very awesome. Just to check with an engine, the best move is in fact bishop g4, and that's what I played last game in a slightly different position, but at this time I wanted to go knight e8 because of the following sequence: bishop to e3, and now just rotating the knight. He goes back, and now just knight f5, and you have a triple attack against the pawn. And funny thing is, you cannot actually defend. Like the only way to kind of get your counterplay is to play like this. And here I cannot take because, okay, this move, and now e5, and my position is kind of shaky. Knight b5, and here queen d7, and again white can in fact take here, but this is fundamentally a draw. I don't want to draw, that's why I kind of played this setup. So here he just plays rook c1 and just gives me the free pawn, and basically the rest of the game was just a blunder. That was the whole game. Here I was like, well, a trade of queens can only help me. I want the end game, but here he went queen b3, just bishop e6. And after you take the pawn, you're forced now into this end game where you're simply down 2 pawns, and yep, here you're just gonna trade the rooks, and now I just push the pawn, and here White resigned. And I won my third game in a row very fast. As you can see, I finished this game with like over 10 minutes on the clock in a 10+5 rapid game, while in other games it was much closer. And now this brings us to the final game here. This was also not the longest of games, and you know, that's why maybe stopping once you feel that you're losing your grip on the positions is important, because psychology really does exist in a game of chess. And when I'm playing very solid and my opponent really tries to beat me like the hardest that they can, basically it's not gonna work like that, because you know, chess is one of those sports where yes, you can be the most motivated, like you cannot outrun your opponent physically. So like there's not like an element that you can add, like, oh, I'm running more than you are, running faster, like in team sports like basketball. And in chess is just like the best move. The engine doesn't care about your feelings or how hard you're motivated to win. So we have the same line again. This time he goes bishop g4, and I just play d4, and it's +1 like right away after move 7. Bishop h3, and now I just take. Not the best move. d5 was better, but I just wanted to open up the board, since I just knew that, you know, I'm gonna have a much more pleasant position than he's gonna have. And just b4, and simply here I make a very stupid blunder. And that's, again, this is another example of psychology. Here I just, you know, play rook c1, and after e4 I thought, I don't really want to go to g5. I want to go to h4 and trap my knight. And here basically my knight is trapped. But I have a crazy sequence, like it's the only sequence in the game, and I think that's why my opponent got, again, angry, tilted, and they were like, oh, I'm gonna win the night, I'm gonna win the game. Finally, after 3 games, I'm gonna beat this guy, and I'm gonna show him that I'm better than him. And here I just played c5, the only move. He takes, and now he plays knight c5, which is a draw. Like this is funny. Basically here he had to he had to play knight c5. He played bishop c5. Here he had to play knight c5 because now I don't have any tactics, because in the game, as you're gonna see here, I took the knight, and basically I got to this position where I can save my knight, and here he actually made a blunder. But in the game he should have went for knight takes, because now I simply don't have the same tactic anymore, because here he simply just plays bishop d4. And now while I do get my knight back, it's completely different, because now he gets all of my pawns, and really I don't have any counterplay here. But in the game, the way he did it with bishop takes, I took and I attacked his knight, and here it is a draw. Knight takes, and it's just a draw because his pawns are just very bad. And you know, I'm attacking a lot of the pawns, and his knight is also out of the game, unlike the bishop would have been. And rook takes f5, and the game basically ends in a few moves. And I mean, now I just play this move, and here he resigns, because I mean, there's no point in continuing. He saw me beat him 3 times. Now in all honesty, he did beat me 2 times afterwards, but I was really tired, and I'm not making excuses, by the way. He played, that's why I'm saying, a great opponent, just had a bad day. But you know, that's what the video is for, you know, psychology, and how you can treat bad position, and how you can win a bad position, and how you can make your opponent tilt, and why, you know, it is so important to be able to calm yourself down during the matches. So this was the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna be coming up with some very interesting video ideas in the future, so you know, just stay tuned, subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell so that you're reminded whenever I'm posting a new video. And you know, this was Kowalski, and I'm out. Peace.